You've been up all night?
Is it morning?
Yes.
Then I've been up all night.
What's going on with you? I haven't slept in 2 days.
With insomnia, nothing's real. Everything's far away.
Can't be easy after 3 days of no sleep. Have you seen things yet?
Hey, are you awake?
Yeah. 12 hours of work and I still can't sleep. Damn.
They get you when you sleep. But you can only stay awake so long.
I am awake.
Is the light keeping you awake?
No.
28 days. 6 hours. 42 minutes. 12 seconds.
How long's it been since you slept?
It's coming up on the 7th day. It's okay, I checked Guinness. The record's 11.
Mom! People don't act like this! What's wrong with you? Henry,
Shut up.
Not normal. She's right. What? You fell asleep on the couch again.
You know you're supposed to go to your room.
You Peter! We slept in!
Another night up like this and you're really gonna lose it.
Honey, I can't sleep.
And I hope it's the long one.
Yeah.
Why you so concerned me go to sleep?
Good night.
I'm gonna go to sleep.
Good night, Ray.
Why don't you go to sleep? Why I can't just sit here and look at your ass?
Just as the little engine was making its way across the dresser. Move!
All right, you ain't gonna get no sleep there either. I'm telling you, because I'm up now.
I know why you're here, Neil. I know what you've been doing. I know why you hardly sleep.
Sparky, why don't you turn off the TV and come to bed?
Sleep! It's time to go to sleep!
It looked like this.
Can't sleep. Clown will eat me. Can't sleep. Clown will eat me.
And May, please, please, please go to sleep.
I can't sleep. Don't you understand? I can't sleep.
Do you not wish to sleep, sir?
I don't think so.
Way better with more people.
I'm gonna come down here. Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, get in here, man. Get right in there.
Now you will go to sleep, or I will put you to sleep.
Yo, yo. How's everybody doing? It's a pretty interesting tax cut. I've heard that before. And I can see that. Olivia, whistleblower, good to see you. Mary Flynn, Shay Watson, Grace, hello. So you're cruising. Frank Meister, thank you. Yeah, hit that like button. Miss Thang, good to see you. Jen from the suburbs. What's up? Likewise, Frank. Likewise, buddy. I could have used a beer today. Whenever you do yard work, that's like the only time you deserve a beer. Miss Persevere, what's up? I'm good. Damn, you got the bug? Oh, wow. The Rockaway, what's up? Hey, Callie. Always good to see you. Hope you're well. What's going on, Bossy? See you, Wanda. Getting hit with one of those kind of winters. We don't have that problem. You get hit with the what is it? The monsoon, El Nino. The Nino. Good to have you. What's up, Sally? Bust out the snowboard. Yeah, we got perfect weather. Like, it's really cold right now, but spring and fall, like, you're not gonna have better weather anywhere on the earth. And if anybody wants to call in, just hit that link. Should be pinned right there at the top of the chat box. But you don't have to. Turn that down a little bit. So I was going to do a live stream this morning, but to be honest, I just wanted to get outside. You ever just felt cooped up? Gnome grown. What's up, JJ? Shout out to Michigan. What's up, Willow? Cool. Yeah, we're just chilling out. Anybody is welcome to call in. You don't have to if you don't want to. I do have some content I put together earlier that I'm going to play tonight. This is not a Delphi live stream. I repeat, this is not a Delphi live stream. But the content that I have put together is related 100% to Delphi. All right, so here's the live stream. It was going to be just like a real quick one, maybe like 45 minutes to an hour. This was the thumbnail that I put together. But I figure I'm just going to show it today. It's real quick. And we will show that in just a little bit. Thanks, JJ. Thank you so much for hitting that thumbs up. Minimum effort. It really is like has maximum effect on a channel. No bueno. What's up, Harvey? All right, let's stop the music for a little bit, turn that off, and let's get going.
Necessarily have jurisdiction for murder cases. This was clearly
This is Jay Abbott, Fox. Can't remember, but this is Fox, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jay Abbott. He is an FBI agent, and he is speaking in regards to the Delphi case.
a case that was within the jurisdiction of the state police. And Doug Carter, superintendent of Indiana State Police, is a good friend and a great colleague during that time and continues to be a great friend. He came and asked for our assistance. As the special agent in charge of the FBI's Indianapolis division, I had during my tenure the option, the authority.
No, this is not
authority to provide whatever assistance he might want to the level that I thought was appropriate. I was absolutely enthused to unleash every FBI asset, technical ability, anything that we had to try to help him solve this case. Indiana State Police stayed the forefront and in charge of the case. But I will tell you that there were those days when the FBI certainly had more personnel in and around Delphi than anyone else in law enforcement. Some days I think we were over 100 personnel that I was trying to keep track of, all doing various things in different capacities, whether it was with the command post, videography type things, voice type analysis, crime scene experts, behavioral analysis experts, and then of course just numerous agents pounding the pavement and running down leads that we had from thousands and thousands of tips.
When you're out there, week 1, week 2, month 2, month 5, year 1, what goes through your guys' mind when you are still no arrests?
Each day that went by, we just felt like that we were going to be closer and closer and closer. And the investigators that Doug with the state police had assigned to the case and that I had assigned from the FBI were extremely competent, very reliable, very intuitive as to how they did their investigations. They worked together seamlessly and we were very proud of them because of that. So we just felt like with each day that we would have that break. Nice. I was very impressed oftentimes, and I would go up there repeatedly, and in the position I was in as the person who was in charge of the division for the FBI, you want to make sure you're careful not to meddle and interfere with the investigators' efforts. But you want to make sure they have all the tools they need and have everything possible that they can have at their disposal to have success. And one of the things I was most impressed by when I would go up to the command post, and I would always try to go up at times when I wouldn't be a hindrance, but they would usually start their day with a prayer. And just, today is going to be the day that we finally bring justice to this case and ease the pain of, for the families and for the community. And I was very impressed with that. And just to go up there and see everybody genuinely wanting to see a positive outcome in this case and bring closure, bring a solution, bring an end to it, was something I was very impressed with. And that was my involvement in making sure all that ran smoothly and the investigators had everything they needed.
You said you were fairly confident it'd be solved fairly soon after, correct?
Yes.
4 years later, and we are still saying an unsolved case. What do you make of that?
Sometimes I feel more things than I can really articulate. The exasperation and frustration is always there. And the times that Doug Carter and his wife and my wife occasionally get together for dinner, it's one of at some point in our conversation, the topic comes up because I know it's still very close to Doug's thoughts, and it continues to be in mine. And it's something that we spoke about an awful lot as we just, when is something going to happen? And again, the numerous things that we had at our disposal and all the information and evidence that existed, it just boggles the mind. And I am certain, and I know Doug feels the same way, there's someone out there who knows something, who knows the person, who knows something about the murder. That person, he or she, is either afraid to come forward because they're fearful, or maybe they even feel themselves.
Grace, good point. Says hard to figure out why it took so long. That's kind of what this portion of the stream is that I put together is all about. Is you have Kim Riley, you have Robert Ives, you have Jay Abbott, and you have Tobe Lesenby. All of them are saying that this should have been solved. That they expected this to be solved in a few days. So why? And why wasn't it?
Being complicit in some way. And to that person, I would tell them, we'll protect you.
What's up, TTM?
You'll be safe. And they would be doing an incredible service to the families and the community by bringing closure to them. And because I feel so strongly about many of the not circumstantial things, many of the crime
I wonder what she
things
means by
of which
that.
we won't speak about, that point to more of a signature that the killer left behind, we feel very confident that person comes forward. That's the thing that will help us tie it together. And that person who is out there and hopefully would be viewing something like this would hopefully build that courage and know that what they were doing really would have a deep meaning for the families and the community that have suffered this tragedy. There are things that occurred or that were found in the crime scene that only the killer would know. And so those are things that...
So what does that mean? And we know that if there's any confusion about those leaked photos, there's 3 items. You had the tie-dyed shirt. You had the object in the middle. Still confused on what that is. And then a Nike tennis shoe. So some people are confused thinking, well, those could be the signatures, right? 3 signatures? No, because we know Robert I said non-secular in nature.
It's been explained to the family and others, and certainly in the media, that we just can't speak about because we do not want to...
Yeah, I like her.
We don't want the killer to know that what we know. And whoever he or she is, more probably he...
Pretty much, right, JJ?
And that person is out at freedom now, really, in many ways. They have to wake up every morning knowing and wondering if today's the day that they're going to finally be caught. Are those persons who might potentially know something circumstantially about them that will give them away will actually come forward. And so that person already is not free, whether they care or not about this horrendous act that they
on?
committed, they'll be caught at some point.
I knew the girls were missing the day before. And I can tell you, I at least, and I think most people thought, oh, well, you know, they're hanging out with friends, they've had a fight with mom. No such thing happened, don't misunderstand me, but we didn't think much about it. And when the next day, when their bodies were found, it was shocking to everybody. It was certainly shocking to me because in Carroll County, such a crime was unprecedented. You know, people kill each other sometimes, but generally it's a crime of passion. It's about boyfriends, girlfriends, husband,
Yeah,
wife,
I'm very interested in what she
or
has
some
to say about that.
emotional dispute. We've never had, in my time, I was first prosecutor in 1987, we never had a murder in a robbery or a random murder. You know, we had drunk driving deaths, we had murders of husbands and wives, but nothing like this. And so it was tremendously shocking. And the outpouring of law enforcement support was incredible then, because not only did the FBI come in extreme numbers, but the law enforcement, the police departments of the surrounding counties, the sheriff's departments, the city police departments, they all sent detectives. And
HLN.
In those early days,
down the hill,
there were plenty of leads, you know, but there was no great lead. You know, people have asked me sometimes, was there a point where y'all knew who did it, but you couldn't prove it? No. When I was involved, that point was never reached. There was never a time where we thought, this is the person, we just don't have enough to charge. But there was so much physical evidence at the crime, and the crime had been found so immediately after it had been committed, that it's the sort of thing that experienced law enforcement officers, experienced investigators all believe, well, this is going to be solved really quickly. And normally it would be. It's shocking to me that it hasn't been solved today. In today's world, we have cell phone evidence, and there were plenty of leads, you know, but there was no great lead. You know, people have asked me sometimes, was there a point where y'all knew who did it, but you couldn't prove it? No. When I was involved, that point was never reached. There was never a time where we thought, this is the person, we just don't have enough to charge. But there was so much physical evidence at the crime, and the crime had been found so immediately after it had been committed, that it's the sort of thing that experienced law enforcement officers, experienced investigators all believe, well, this is going to be solved really quickly. And normally it would be. It's shocking to me that it hasn't been solved today. In today's world, we have cell phone evidence and we have DNA evidence. But if you had been a police officer in 1960 and you had arrived at this crime scene with the traditional physical evidence that was there, and then not to mention the fact, of course, we had video and audio of the person I think certainly killed the girls, you would be certain you were going to catch them within 48 hours. So when you add in the fact that we have evidence today, or we have investigatory methods that we didn't have in the 60s, all police officers, I believe anybody who was in the first 24 hours had any doubt it was going to be solved within 2-3 days.
See, why did he say that? What makes him think that?
That's what or we have investigatory methods that we didn't have in the 60s. All police officers.
And when he says investigatory methods, he means DNA.
I believe anybody who was involved. I doubt anybody in that first 24 hours had any doubt it was going to be solved within 2-3 days. And
just from the evidence at the scene.
Yes, yes. The circumstances of the crime, yes. Mm-hmm. And, you know, then after that, what happened was they developed a system where when there were tips or there were hints or there were reason to believe somebody was in the neighborhood, they would assign, we had so many officers working on it that the guys they give them sheets, in effect, go find these people and interview them about where they were that day and so on. And so there was this unbelievable manpower, totally unprecedented in my experience, working on this and enthusiastically and passionately. And I would have been certain, if you had asked me at the time, I said, oh, next couple of days, they're going to find a suspect and action's going to be taken. Not because I had any particular feeling about a particular thing, it's just because of the circumstances of the crime.
At the scene.
Yes. I've told people before, there were times in those early days, it'd be late at night. And guys wouldn't go home because they thought, no, we're going to go out and do this, and then we're going to solve this, because that's the perception everybody had. Not because we had necessarily a really good lead, just because it just seemed like, well, of course this is going to be solved. The location is it's not a tourist attraction or anything. You know, if you weren't from around here, you'd have no reason to even know such a place existed. You know, the trail actually terminates at the bridge. The girls had gone out because it was a beautiful day.
One thing about Robert Ives is he was spot on. He's like, this dude is obviously local. Like, he knows this place. He's been here multiple times. You know, he kind of had the best profile out of everybody.
52 degrees, as I recall, in February. They just decided we're going to go out for a walk. And I remember at the time I would see on the internet or nationally people saying, I can't believe those girls were out there, as it was the wilderness. You could walk from my office downtown out to where they were in 20 minutes, maybe half an hour tops. And you could drive there in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And so it was just on the edge of town. In fact, there were houses. In fact, where the crime scene is,
hey, Charmaine,
there's a house up on a hill that can actually look down. The backyard can look down and see that.
This is a good comment here. I still feel that someone was dragging their feet to slow down the progress of the case. I still feel that we eventually may be shocked at who ends up being involved. Yeah, it doesn't have to be like this huge, corrupt police force. It could just be one person, who has the ability to kind of weasel in and maybe change a few things here or there, or knock something off the desk into the trash, or somehow just kind of get their weaselly little hands in there and try to help out a friend or somebody they would consider a brother,
house, or the crime scene, I should say. And so the idea that they were someplace dangerous, I wouldn't have hesitated to have my child at that age to be walking out there. That's another thing that's shocking about the whole thing. Well, I guess I fear at this point that the most likely thing is, and this is a terrible thing to hope for, is that some other crime would be solved, and the person, as has sometimes happened in the past, the person would say, oh, I committed this crime in Delphi also.
I think he made that comment because of the DNA as well. So if he gets caught and his DNA, now his DNA is on record, they can match it.
I started to say, on the one hand, because it's not a very famous kind of place, I always tend to think it was a local person.
Boom.
But the fact that it's not been
100%.
solved, and the fact there doesn't appear to be any motivation for it, it appears to be a serial killer type of thing. I'm not saying it is, I don't know, but makes me wonder if it wasn't a random act by somebody who isn't around here all the time. But I don't know. I mean, I'd like to tell you I have a strong feeling about that, but I don't. Early on, I would have said, well, it's surely somebody local, because who would know to be out there? Why would you be out there? Why would you even expect to find any other human beings out there in February?
Man, he was spot on. He's like, it makes the most sense.
So it's broad daylight. This is something that needs to be emphasized. This is not like these girls were in a back alley in the middle of the night. They're in broad daylight in Carroll County, Indiana.
A lot of crime scene evidence. Some of it is somewhat odd, but when I say that, any murder scene tends to have odd facts about it. I mean,
Okay, now what does he mean by odd? Yeah, I don't think he meant the tracks. Is it Joni? Joni Sullivan? I think he just meant the trails in general. But when he says odd, is he referring to that, the non-secular? Because, I mean, it's got to be beyond, what would generally be odd about murder. That's an odd thing. Murder is odd. So it has to go outside of that.
real life, obviously, people don't kill people really all that often. And this crime scene, there's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of unique facts there. And honestly, I'm shocked, and I promise you the police are shocked that it wasn't solved in a day or two, because it just didn't seem, Indiana. Normally, if person A murders person B, it's obvious who the suspects are, and usually it's pretty obvious how to prove they committed the crime. This crime is very strange. But let me put this.
What does that mean?
Person A murders person B, it's obvious who the suspects are, and usually it's pretty obvious how to prove they committed the crime. This crime is...
It sounds like Robert Ives is stuck between the serial killer and the person's local. You know, he seems conflicted by that. He's like, wow, there's just something very strange about it. So it's got to be somebody. It's almost like it's somebody local with those kind of tendencies. Maybe
it's very strange. But let me put this. Go ahead. No, go ahead. No, I mean, the crime scene was physically strange, but that's for the state police to decide what to release and not release. I've said that before. It's very odd. It's kind of hard to answer that, because in a case like this, they probably weren't going to make an arrest without talking to me or talking to whoever the prosecutor was at the time first, to make sure that we all agreed there was enough. You know, obviously police make decisions to arrest people all the time, and if someone confessed or there was some piece of physical evidence, DNA evidence or such, that linked a person closely to a crime, well, they're going to go ahead and make an arrest. On a case like this, if you were building it up from a pile of facts, then you're probably going to consult with your prosecutor to determine, do you think this is enough? That's what in my experience, experienced detectives, experienced investigators know that they need to do that if they're building up a case on circumstantial facts. But if you had enough to file, what you do as a prosecutor is you deal with the people most closely related to the investigation, and you go over and over the facts. What can we do to bolster this case? What can we do to make sure that we've covered every possibility? And in addition, you try to look ahead to think, if there was a defense attorney involved, what holes would they try to make in this case? What can we do to fill in those holes? And so,
Anna, good to see you. If the victims were killed with a sharp-edged weapon, but a .40 caliber cartridge was found at the scene, that cartridge looks like it might be a signature. Yeah, really, because it seems ridiculous. We all struggle to try to explain it, right? Oh, you know, we go through these crazy scenarios. Oh, you know, you could have done this, grabbed it like that. He could have done this. But when you really think about it, what's the simplest answer? He put it there. Right?
So when you're dealing with something like this, where the penalties are so grossly severe, and the chance of going to trial is extremely high, because you're just not going to plead people out to cases like this, or even if you are, you're going to have an overwhelming case to convince them that they need to take a ridiculously, I shouldn't say ridiculous, a horrendously strong penalty. Then what you're trying to do, as I say, with the police, is you're going over and over. Do we have this covered? Do we have this covered? Do we have this covered? Do we have every piece of physical evidence? That we send every single thing to the lab? Is there anything else that we've forgotten that would make this case stronger? Is there anything else we've forgotten that would prevent a weakness from appearing that doesn't really exist? Because obviously one defense line is always, well, the police didn't do this, the police didn't do that, they didn't do this, the state didn't do this. And so sometimes you do things, you take steps that you don't really believe are going to produce any evidence, but you want to be able to tell a jury, no, we tried that. We tried to do that. In the old days, when I say the old days, 20 years ago, I mean, the big thing always was, well, they didn't take fingerprints. We're going, well, there's no identification.
Yeah, Anna.
Well, juries still don't understand why you didn't take those fingerprints. So as you guys say, throw the dust around and you look for fingerprints everywhere you can. And in today's
I
world,
think they hit
you
me
certainly
last
look
time.
for DNA every place you can. You look for fiber
Physical
evidence every place
in this
you can.
case?
I'm going to say there's a lot of evidence. I know there was at least 4 different crime scene technicians working that, and they worked it for almost 4 full days. It was in the late winter, and so there was a lot of leaves on the ground, you know, and it was warm at that time, so the snow had melted and everything was wet and very, very muddy in the area at that time. So yeah, it was, the conditions of the whole thing was not ideal, let's put it that way.
A lot of tracks, cigarette butts, believe it or not, this is kind of disgusting, but you had spit. People would urinate, I mean, because they don't have time to go back, so they go hide in the woods to go to the bathroom, that kind of stuff. So we had to deal with all that. And most people don't even think of things like that. But I mean, it was just that dramatic of a crime scene.
Oh, that's crazy. That reminds me. I played this in yesterday's members meeting, but it kind of goes hand in hand with this. Well, that was loud.
That could have been on the search team. Look for him when they were missing.
So this is 2 girls from Indiana, 2 ladies who stopped by and interviewed Ron Logan, and I think they secretly tape recorded him. This is when he talks about PB and PB being the one that found him and how he's his neighbor and all these things. But this kind of goes what Robert Ives was saying, or I'm sorry, what Kim Riley was saying, is that the crime scene, they were dealing with this crime scene that could have been contaminated. So it's strange to hear Ron Logan say the same thing. Like, man, there's people just stomping through here. And the killer could have easily have been back there, you know, just putting his DNA all over everything.
Right. I mean, they had people out here in my woods that night that they were looking for all over that place. Didn't find him. Now, why did you not find him there?
Yeah, I find that surprising too.
And if that is a crime, with hundreds of people in my woods and walking up down the creek, tromping all over everything, what are you going to find?
Right.
Destroyed.
Who found him?
Huh?
Who found him?
The neighbor over here, Pat Brown.
Is it she or he? Pat?
Yeah, Patrick.
Was he on the volunteer fire?
No, he's a neighbor.
Yeah.
Living for him.
And he found him.
There was some other woman with him. Supposedly some people on the other side could look on my side of the creek and they saw clothing.
And we know that from Kelsey. She kind of explained that a few times on a few different podcasts, that I think around 11, she had returned back there and was searching underneath the bridge and couldn't really find anything, and went back up to the private drive. And while she was up there, somebody yelled up and said, "Hey, what kind of shoe were the girls wearing?" And she said, "I believe Libby had Nikes and whatever." And they're like, "Well, this is matching down here." And then somebody took their cell phone and kind of followed these footprints that were going kind of aimed into the water. And as they came up, well, they say it was 2 deer. I don't know what that means. I don't know how true that story is. I don't know. But apparently that's when they saw the girls across the creek. So I don't know if that's what Ron Logan means by it was PB, or was somebody else holding the camera, and then here comes PB from Ron Logan's side rushing towards the girls to check on them.
So they called up, said, "Hey, there's some clothing down there. Go check it out."
Clothing down there. So there's some clothing down there. I wonder if that's the leaked images that we see.
Down over the hill, and he saw me. So, and they're right out in the open. I don't understand why they didn't find them the night before. Why did it take them?
Right out in the open. And if you listen to the RTV6 chopper and turn it up and isolate their radio chatter at about the 4-minute, 20-second mark, you'll hear them say the same thing. They said, hey, we just spoke to, and they even say somebody's name. But down by the cemetery, please be advised that they're out in the open. So, and that's RTV6, the chopper footage, about 4 minutes, 20 seconds, something like that. So yeah, that verifies, and that was after 12.
Do you think they were there the night before?
Well, according to all the law investigators, they were. No one thinks it's a dump site.
Yeah. Pretty close.
Miss Persevere says hundreds of people running around out here, and PB and a woman found them. We also heard in another interview that with Becky and Mike Patty that somebody was with their husband and they found him, or was with the group that found him. So I wonder if these are the same people.
I have no idea. Then that could have been on the search team to look for their...
About fingerprints.
There were some fingerprints collected.
Do you know if those fingerprints belong to the killer?
That I do not know.
And same with DNA. You have DNA.
Yes.
Do you have his DNA?
Again, we don't know.
DNA. Yeah, we're probably going to get out of here in about 10 minutes. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. Fingerprints. You got DNA? Yeah. You got his DNA? I don't know. So it seems like they're tying Richard Allen to this, the scientific. Early on, Doug Carter said, we have a human element and then we have a scientific element. So now the scientific element to me is the bullet, the unspent bullet, right? And the human element must be the DNA. So if Richard Allen is tied to it, to the scientific element, and by placing himself there and by witnesses viewing him there, but the DNA doesn't match to him, that could be the reason why they think others are involved. Later, Willow. Yeah, that's all rumor, dude. We don't know if that's true. All this negative stuff that came out against Tony Leggett was like right as he was running. He was running for sheriff. A lot of weird stuff started happening right around, election time. to come up with what he would say to law enforcement. I wonder if he's going to squeal. Here, let's end with that. That's a good poll question. Well, I hope you guys can hear this, because I am Wanda says, if R.A. is guilty but thinks he will get off for some reason to implicate someone else, implicated himself, I just hope prosecution has enough to nail him if he did it. Yeah, I think the best he could ever hope for is not the death penalty. Alright guys, I'm out of here. Take care.